When we think of the top American fighter ace of the Second World War, a specific image emerges. It's usually Richard Bong or Francis Gabreski, their names synonymous with a staggering number of victories. Their achievements are monumental, well documented, but the story of Major George E. Preddy Jr. presents a different, more revealing calculus. Preddy ended the war as the top-scoring P-51 Mustang ace in the European theater, and his name should carry equal weight, yet it doesn't, and that absence is instructive. His career is not merely a tally of kills, it is a precise case study in the brutal, accelerating evolution of air combat over Europe from 1944 to 1945. Preddy's rise was meteoric, his skill almost preternaturally suited to the new form of warfare being written in the skies over the Reich. But his story, particularly its end, forces us to confront a less comfortable truth, that by late 1944, the greatest threat to an Allied fighter pilot was often not the Luftwaffe's elite, but the sheer, saturated and chaotic volume of the Allied war machine itself. The most lethal arena had become the sky above one's own advancing army. To understand George Preddy's war, we must first discard the myth of the solitary hunter. Preddy did not come to the 352nd Fighter Group, the famed blue-nosed bastards of Bodny, as a natural-born ace. He was in fact older than many of his peers, a pre-war pilot who had washed out of pursuit training and found himself flying desk-bound administrative aircraft. His path back to fighters was one of sheer, dogged determination, a testament to a focused mind that studied the mechanics of aerial combat as a science. When he finally reached England in 1943, the air war was at a pivotal inflection point. The USAAF's doctrine of daylight precision bombing was proving brutally costly. Unescorted bombers were slaughtered by a professional, experienced Luftwaffe fighter force. The arrival of the P-51B Mustang, with its transformative range, changed everything. Preddy's war began just as this new tool created a new kind of battlefield. One that stretched from the English coast to the heart of Germany. He was not a swashbuckler, he was a technician, a patient mathematician of angles, deflection, and energy management. His first victories in early 1944 were not spectacular, but they were methodical. He was learning the machine, and more importantly, he was learning the new geometry of the deep escort mission, where every gallon of fuel and every second of combat had to be accounted for. His moment of transcendence came not over Berlin, but during the chaos of the Normandy breakout. On August 6, 1944, during the operational frenzy following Operation Cobra, Preddy's squadron was tasked with a ground support mission near the French town of Laval. The Luftwaffe, in a desperate attempt to stem the Allied armored advance, threw everything it had into the fray. What followed was less a classic dogfight and more a sprawling, low-altitude melee. In the span of just a few minutes, Preddy shot down 6 German aircraft, 2 Messerschmitt Bf-109s and 4 Focke-Wulf FW-190s. It was an astounding feat, earning him the Distinguished Service Cross. But to label it simply ace in a day misses its tactical significance. This engagement demonstrated Preddy's complete mastery of the Mustang in the most demanding environment, at treetop level, amid ground fire, with multiple fleeting targets and minimal room for error. It showcased a pilot who could process the chaotic variables of a battlefield with cool, surgical precision. This was not the chivalrous jousting of 1940. This was the high-velocity, high-stakes slaughter of an air force caught in a tactical emergency. Preddy proved uniquely adept at it. The pinnacle of Preddy's combat career revealed the shifting nature of the Luftwaffe itself. By late 1944, the quality of German opposition had deteriorated markedly. The experienced Expert 10 were being killed off, replaced by poorly trained pilots flying often inferior aircraft. The Allied fighter sweeps now often found empty skies. Yet, on Christmas Day 1944 during the Battle of the Bulge, Preddy led a flight of Mustangs on a patrol over the confused front lines. Spotting a lone German reconnaissance aircraft, they gave chase. That chase led them directly into a formation of over 30 Focke-Wulf 190s and Messerschmitt 109s. The Germans, likely disorganized and low on fuel themselves, presented a target-rich environment. In the ensuing battle, Preddy shot down 2 FW-190s and 2 Bf-109s. This brought his official total to 26.83 victories, making him the top Mustang ace in the ETO. But the victory is telling. The Luftwaffe was no longer a cohesive, disciplined force, it was a hazard, a dangerous but disorganized remnant. The kills were made against pilots who likely lacked the training to counter a predator of Preddy's caliber. The greatest danger in such an engagement was not being outflown, but being caught in a stray collision or a lucky shot from a panicked novice. Which brings us to the circumstances of December 25, 1944, just hours after that historic engagement. The Battle of the Bulge had thrown the Western Front into disarray. Ground forces were intermingled, front lines were nebulous, and identification was a constant, lethal problem. On the afternoon of the 25th, Preddy led another patrol, this time responding to reports of enemy aircraft near Liège. What happened next is a stark lesson in the friction of war and the unintended consequences of overwhelming air superiority. Spotting a low-flying Focke-Wulf 190, Preddy dove to attack. The chase, at near-suicidal treetop level, streaked directly over Allied anti-aircraft positions. These batteries, comprised of both American Army units and British Royal Artillery, were on extreme alert, their nerves frayed by days of German ground attack and the fear of infiltrators. The sight of a low-flying German plane, with an Allied fighter close behind, triggered a catastrophic decision. A British anti-aircraft crew, following the standard identification protocol of the time, which was, honestly, utterly inadequate for the speed and compression of this scenario, opened fire. Their target was the German, but their tracer rounds, and those from other batteries that joined in, filled the sky between Preddy and his quarry. The final lesson of George Preddy is written in the cold language of operational research and friendly fire. Preddy's P-51D was hit, almost certainly by Allied ground fire. He managed to radio a terse "I've been hit" before crashing into a field. He did not survive. The official report, after necessary obfuscation, cited ground fire as the cause. The most lethal American fighter pilot in Europe at that moment was killed not by a German ace, not by a failure of skill or machine, but by the diffuse, defensive violence of his own side. This is the overlooked reality his story underscores. By late 1944, the Allied tactical environment had become so dense, so saturated with aircraft, artillery, and moving ground units, that the risk of blue-on-blue engagement was arguably as high as the risk from the enemy. The systems for identification, visual recognition, IFF technology, procedural controls, had failed to keep pace with the scale and speed of the air war. Preddy was a victim of the very success he helped engineer, an airspace so dominated by Allied power that the primary threats were congestion and misidentification. His legacy, therefore, is twofold. Firstly, it is a masterclass in the adaptation of a pilot to a specific technological and tactical moment. Preddy was the perfect pilot for the 1944-45 Mustang, war meticulous, patient, and lethally efficient in the high-speed pursuit and bounce tactics that defined the era. Secondly, and more profoundly, his death is a critical data point in the long, painful history of reducing fratricide in combined arms warfare. The post-war analyses of such incidents directly influenced the development of better identification friend or foe systems, stricter rules of engagement for air defense artillery, and more integrated command and control networks. The goal was to prevent the loss of a Preddy, your most valuable asset, to your own security blanket. Remembering George Preddy is not about adding another name to a list of aces. It is about examining the trajectory of a consummate professional within the specific, grinding context of total war. It forces us to look beyond the killboard and into the operational environment. The stretching of logistics, the degradation of the enemy, and the paradox where overwhelming success generates its own unique set of deadly hazards. His story is a reminder that in modern warfare, the battlefield is not a defined line, but a three-dimensional space where complexity itself can become the enemy. For the historian, it is a narrative that prioritizes context over myth and consequence over legend. If you value this kind of in-depth analytical look at the often overlooked realities of military history, consider subscribing to War Machiner. Share this video with others who seek a deeper understanding beyond the simplified summaries. There are more of these stories to uncover. Thanks for watching.